we get to the admin UI, and we're going to look at how to enable LDAP, SAML, Radius, how to set up the default authentication. And then at the end, we're going to talk about post-auth scripts. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and start. Let me make sure that I got everybody's admitted here. Yes. So let's talk about access server very quickly. Again, this is for people that they may not be familiar with the access server. Just give me 1 second. Let me see. Okay, I think here we go, Johan. You should be able to. I just set you up as a panelist. Okay, I guess you're good right now. Sorry, just a technical glitch. So we got Johan with us. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. So what is access server? Again, this is just a couple minutes of introduction about the product. So the short answer is that access server basically provides secure access to your private business network in the cloud or on-premise. Now, OpenVPN access server, it is our self-hosted VPN solution. Make it very simple for quick deployment of a secure remote access and site-to-site solution with a web-based administration interface and built-in OpenVPN Connect app distribution. Now, if you haven't seen the web UI or admin UI, you're going to see it in a couple of minutes when we log in to our access server and look at different options. We built OpenVPN access server using the OpenVPN open source code and additional open source software like OpenSSL. Now, OpenVPN access server basically maintains compatibility with the open source project, making the deployed VPN immediately usable with the OpenVPN protocol compatible software on many routers and Linux distributions. With this all-in-one solution, you can protect your business data communications, you can secure your IoT devices or resources, you can implement access control and network segmentation, and you can provide remote access to on-premise, hybrid, and public cloud resources. Now, access server delivers the most critical features and functions you need to connect and protect your network. These days, cloud networks and mobile workforces give businesses an unmatched speed and flexibility, but requires another layer of security. Giving remote workers online resources and applications access introduces a complex network security issues. So secure private access to online services is critical for businesses of every size. It doesn't matter what size your business is. So a site-to-site network secures your extended enterprise by interconnecting your corporate network and remote offices, and you can be confident that your employees have secure internet access from wherever they happen to be working and accessing your resources. Now, the Internet of Things now are everywhere and increasing your network attack surface, and you can create access for IoT devices through access server also. So some of the features of access server, if I want to summarize it, easy to install, set up, and manage through an easy to use web admin or web portal. Flexible deployment options, availability on cloud marketplaces. Pretty much you can find the access server on all the major cloud marketplaces. It does support for both site-to-site and remote access virtual networking. And then clients bundled with connection profile for quick install and connectivity. And then secure authentication methods such as PAM, Radius, LDAP, SAML, or even a custom method. Multiple can be used in conjunction. And that's something that we're going to talk about today during this webinar, how we can use multiple authentication method with access. So in summary, what makes Access Server different from competition? Basically creates an economical, isolated, and secure private network, easy to install, set up, manage through an admin UI. As I mentioned a second ago, support both side-to-side and remote virtual networking. And you can also handle high volume of incoming connections by load balancing over a cluster of Access servers. And then last thing is I want to mention here is subscribed connections can be fully utilized by sharing across multiple Access servers. So that's one of the big ones, especially when it comes to budgeting your expenses. So that was a quick introduction to Access Server. I don't see any questions yet. Johan, do you want to add anything here before we get into the authentication options?
No, I think this was good. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's talk about authentication options when it comes to Access Server. Now, I want to look at the flexibility of Access Server that offers in terms of the authentications here. One of the standard features of this product, the Access Server, is that it adapts to several authentication methods, whether you're looking at the local or external system, time-based one-time mechanism, or even custom design methods. So Access Server got everything covered for you. And for those organizations that have pre-existing directory services, the seamless integration capabilities of Access Server make this transition very smooth and hassle-free. Essentially, it's all about ensuring that the authentication process aligns with your organizational needs while maintaining the highest security standards. So let's look at some of these methods in details. Now, starting with the basic, the local authentication is the default method that is used in Access Server. What that means is simply, but basically users attempts to log in, their credentials are cross-referenced with the password hashes stored in a dedicated user property database. So that's basically local authentication. When you install or configure your Access Server, that's basically how it comes out of the box. Now, the next thing we have PAM authentication. And this method basically allows Access Server to manage authentication using local user accounts, either on the same operating system where the Access Server is installed or on a separate accessible server. And that's the keyword, the accessible server. So think of it as leveraging the existing user management system of your operating system and providing a seamless integration point and reducing the need for separate user database. Now we're getting to radius and remote authentication dialing user service. Now, this is another powerful authentication method supported by Access Server. Access Server supports radius protocols for three methods, basically. One is PAP, Password Authentication Protocol, which basically sends the username and password in plain text. The second is CHAP, as a Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol. This one masks the username and password by encrypting the communication. And then the third one is MS-CHAP version 2, which is Microsoft Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol version 2. Now, this is basically a Microsoft version of CHAP that also masks the username and password by encrypting the communication. Now, we normally recommend using CHAP and MS-CHAP version 2, but there might be a situation where using PAP is situationally might be okay. Not sure if really necessary to use it, but if you have your VPN connection doesn't need this to send the traffic over the internet, or where you deploy the radius server or agent on the same host where Access Service is running. Again, this is debatable, but it is mentioned here. Now, many organizations these days rely on LDAP or lightweight directory access protocol for user management, especially a lot of companies that they're using Windows Active Directory, for example. Recognizing this, OpenVPN basically offers a seamless integration with LDAP authentication services. Now, the beauty of this method is that it provides a more secure authentication process while centralizing user management. And it's all about the streamlining operations and ensuring that there is a single reliable source of truth for your user data. Now you're going to see in a second how to turn on the LDAP authentication on Access Server and configure it. It's pretty simple. Now, shifting gear a little bit, let's talk about SAML. This one, in today's digital age, single sign-on experiences are becoming increasingly important for user convenience. With SAML authentication, users can log into Access Server using their identity provider credentials. Basically, this eliminates the need for separate Access Server specific credentials. So streamlining, again, the login process and enhancing or making a user experience a little bit more desirable and nicer. Now, this is basically a quick explanation about any of these authentication methods. And we're going to look at the, before I jump on the admin UI, there is a question in the Q&A box. Johan, would you like to take that, please?
Yeah, sure. So the question was, using local authentication, is it also unencrypted like with PAP? So yes and no, depends on where you look at it. But basically, when you connect an OpenVPN client to the OpenVPN access server and you use the local authentication system, then the password that you type in at the OpenVPN client is sent as plain text to the server, where it then gets verified against a stored hash on the server. But that plain text password travels over the encrypted OpenVPN control channel. So there's no way that you can intercept that in a plain text format. One other thing is that Radius can do PAP, but with Radius, the password gets sent from the OpenVPN client, plain text, to the OpenVPN access server, which then relays it to the Radius server for authentication. And if that relay between the access server and the Radius server is done using PAP, that's plain text, and that could theoretically be intercepted if you are in that network. But if the Radius server is on the local access server, then there's very little risk of that happening. But if, of course, the Radius server is not on the access server itself, then you would be better off using CHAP to ensure that that does not travel plain text over the network. I hope that that answered the question sufficiently.
Okay, great. Thank you, Johan. I don't see any other questions here. Okay, let's look at the admin UI and look at the different authentication method, how you can enable it, and you can set up your default authentication method, basically. So as you can see, I'm logged into an admin UI of one of my access server here on the status page. For the authentication, I need to expand authentication. And as you can see, we got settings. We come back to this in a second. Radius, LDAP, and SAML. So any of these authentication methods you want to turn on, you basically select it. There is a toggle switch that you can choose yes to turn it on and then enter the information here. For example, if I go to LDAP and enable my LDAP, then I already have the configuration for my LDAP authentication method is here. So all I have to do is just toggle the switch and then save settings and then update running. Now, oops, I got timed out. Sorry, let me go back here. So, but by doing that, once I enable the LDAP, and now LDAP becomes available for me to choose an authentication method. So SAML, again, the same thing. You can just toggle the switch and turn it on. Again, the configuration is already here, but if not, you can enter it and then click on Save Settings. And there's an error here, probably because the setting is not correct, but you get the point. Now, if I go to this setup or settings, I have a server here that I have everything set up here. As you can see, if I go to settings, I got the default authentication system here. So I can choose local PAM, LDAP, or SAML. And if I had a Radius here, I could choose Radius too. So this is how you can choose the default authentication system on the system level. Now, one of the beauty of the access server is that you can set the authentication method on a user group level as well as the user level. And that's being done by looking at the user permission or group permission and checking the properties of that user or user group. Sorry, I got disconnected from this one also. So if I look at my, for example, user permissions here, I got a few groups here. So if I go to more settings, as you can see, right now default on this machine is LDAP, but on the group level, I can change it to local, PAM, or LDAP or SAML. So again, this is on a group level. The same thing can happen with the user level. I have a user here, for example, Eddie. If I click on that, you can see Eddie is already set up as a local for the authentication method, even though the system level, it's, well, on this one is a group, but if the default was LDAP, I could change it to local or PAM or anything else. So this is basically how you can set up the default authentication method on a system level, group level, and user level, and how to enable and configure your LDAP or SAML settings. Now, obviously, there might be some configuration that you have to do on your identity provider. If it's a Windows Active Directory, you may have to do some configuration on Active Directory. And if a SAML, depending on your identity provider, there are certain settings and configuration that you have to do as well. So that was a quick, introduction on how to set up your default authentication method. And as you can see, you can have multiple authentication method available and enabled on your access server, and you can choose the default one. So before I jump back to the presentation and talk about post-auth, I want to see if Johan would like to add anything here.
No, I also don't see any questions at the moment, so I don't really have anything to add. Maybe one thing about post-auth is that it's based on Python 3 script language, and it allows you to expand upon the existing authentication systems that are already built into Access Server. So you could, for example, say, okay, a user has successfully passed his username and password check, but I want to ask an additional question, like maybe a hardware token question, like somebody might have a token that generates a unique key every X amount of seconds, then you can script that in Python, have the client ask for it, and the Python script will then deal with it. And the post-auth script also allows to completely replace the authentication system in Accessor and build your own, like completely from scratch with any method you like. Basically allow the clients to send their username and password to the Access server, and then the post-auth script will use that to implement a completely new authentication system.
Okay, great.
So, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that was a great explanation. So I'm going to expand on this a little bit, and then we look at the couple of the scripts and different options that you may have with the post-auth. Now, as Johan just mentioned, post-auth is a powerful feature that allows us to basically extend the default authentication capability of Access Server. Now, imagine being able to add an extra layer of security checks or requirements after the primary user authentication, such as multi-factor authentication or hardware, verification and so on. So not only that, but it's also offer a flexibility to implement your own very custom authentication methods, as Johan just mentioned. So this feature basically ensures that our VPN connections are not just secure, but also tailored to our specific needs and, based on our compliances and everything else. So let's explore this a little bit more in detail, that you can get a little bit more familiar with this. So basically, think of a post-auth as a programming hook with OpenVPN Access Server. Like Johan mentioned, is a Python script. Now, what that means, essentially, after the user has been authenticated, this hook allows us to execute custom scripts. And it's like having a checkpoint after the main gate where we can add any additional checks or requirements we consider necessary. Now, this capability actually is priceless for administrators who want to ensure that users meet specific criteria before gaining access. Now, whether it's a simple check or a complex requirement, post-auth basically provides the tools to make it happen. Now, let's see how this can be practically applied. Now, if we take our attention to a specific application of post-auth, now is in this slide, you can see we're talking about steps for SAML authentication. And I'm going to show you the script in a second. So we're looking at the SAML authentication and SAML group mapping. Now, imagine a scenario where user authenticates via SAML, and based on their SAML group membership, they're automatically assigned to specific groups within the access server. This automation streamlined the user management process significantly. Now, how it works, first, you set up SAML authentication, as I showed you in a second ago, and then you customize your post-auth or our post-auth script to map your SAML groups to access server groups. Once installed, then the script does the heavy lifting and ensuring users are placed in the right groups. And again, you're going to see that in a second. Same thing can happen with the LDAP. Again, the same thing. We can do this with the LDAP group mapping using post-auth script. Basically, we start by setting up LDAP authentication, and then we configure your post-auth to automatically map these LDAP groups to specific groups, and so on. So let's go ahead and look at the screen here. I have a SSH session going on to my access server. Now, one of the things that I'm going to add these notes, those links to the chat box, but it's pretty simple to find these. If you go to our website and search for post-auth, you're going to get these links. So these are basically some notes and examples of the post-auth that you can follow to reconfigure or manipulate your scripts and load them up into your server, especially when it comes to group mapping, two-factor authentication, and so on. And there is a step-by-step instructions on how to do all those things. Now, when it comes to post-auth, oops, sorry, I missed my screen. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Hardware address checking. So this is, again, a nice one that you can configure. Basically, what happens is that you can create a hardware address checking script to enhance your security. As you can see, it says on the screen. Now, what it does is basically allowing users with the registered MAC address and UUID strings to connect to the access server. Now, on the older version, I think it was MAC address, and the newer version, UUID, and Johan can correct me on the version number in a second. But basically, our sample script automatically registers the device MAC address or UUID strings, and you can configure it to have complete control over that as the administrator. Now, post-auth script can accept 2 hardware address per account, but only auto registers the first one. Now, you can manually add the optional and secondary address. Now, one important thing that I want to mention, as I said, on the OpenVPN 2 clients, I think it was the MAC address that was being sent, and then the OpenVPN 3 clients, and on up, it's the UUID strings. And I want to make sure that this is correct. Johan, I guess, is typing an answer to a question, but Johan, can you confirm this, that the OpenVPN 2 clients are sending MAC address and then 3 is UUID?
Almost. So you can see it actually on screen just a little lower, but OpenVPN 2 originally started out sending only MAC addresses, but that had a flaw in that the MAC address was taken from whatever interface was the default gateway on the client device. And if you have a laptop with a wired connection and a wireless connection, that could change, and that was a problem. So we changed We are actually moving towards UUID, and OpenVPN Connect v3 was the first to actually start to implement that. For the access server, it doesn't really matter all that much because the access server basically wants a unique identifier. Doesn't matter if that's the MAC or the UUID. It will take that from the client, store it, and the next time the client connects, it must offer the same value. So unless you switch back and forth between client versions, I don't think you'll see a problem with this. And the UUID is meant to avoid this problem of having the MAC address change depending on what network interface you're using. So there should be no issue there.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's look at the script, the Python script, and then what we're talking about when we're talking about group mapping. So as you can see, I have a SSH going on here. Now, if you look at the this page here, and as I said, I'm going to paste the link in a minute in the chat box, and you click on this link, it's going to give you a step-by-step of how to configure SAML with the Azure AD and so on. But then just to scroll down, you're going to see the instruction how to download the post-out script or retrieve it, and then how to edit it. So to make it easier here to see what we're talking about, I'm going to retrieve the SAML basically a script for our group mapping. If I can, let me see, copy this command here. And for some reason, my SSH just got, let's see. I guess I have to reconnect. Sorry about that. Johan, do you want to add something else here while I'm connecting? You're more than welcome.
No,
No,
no.
sorry, this is technology for you. You know, all of a sudden things
I mean,
stop.
this is what you get when you do a live demo. You prepare everything, and then when you get
Yeah,
to it, it's like, oh, it timed out, so nothing to
exactly.
worry about.
Yeah, so it's just going to take a second. Let me get the link here, and then we're going to connect. I need to change my username here. Okay, here we go. Let me elevate this, and then we're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and copy that script to retrieve the Python script for the post up. So let me copy this one here, and here we go. So as you can see, the script is here. Now I'm going to open it using Nano, pretty simple here. Pretty much everybody knows that. And then once this is open, we need to basically go down to section that we can see the group mapping. Here it is. So you can see the group mapping here, and you can configure it as you can see fit. Now, for example, like if you look at this line, the search of the this is basically search for the terms of administrators within the SAML group names provided to the post out script by the SAML IDP. And that happens during the user login process. Now, if the user belongs to administrators group, the following code basically is executed to place the user in the admin group of the access server. Basically, that's what this says. Now, you can modify this the way that you want it. If you want to change this admin group to something else, you can, and the administrator, you can. So you have full control over this to change it. Now, once you change it, obviously, you need to save this and then load it into your access server. And now this happens exactly the same thing with the LDAP as well. So if I retrieve, and you're going to see the scripts are pretty much, look the same just for the LDAP. It has, the different name, and then the configuration is for the LDAP IDP. So if you come down here, you can see again the same thing. The administrators are going to get placed in the admin group of the access server, and you can change this as you see fit and as you can see it in your use cases or your environment. And then once you're done, again, you can save this and load it up into your access server. Now, all the instructions are on this page, how to edit this script, what to do, and then how to load the scripts after basically configuring or changing the script. So this is basically how you look at the post out the scripts and how you can change it. Again, in a couple minutes, I'm gonna post a few links in the chat box for you guys for reference. Now, one of the last thing I want to mention here before we summarize this is that post out is not just the future, it's this testament to the flexibility and adaptability of the modern security systems. By allowing custom checks, group mappings, and even hardware address verification, we're ensuring that your connection, our VPN connections are not just secure, but also tailored to your organization unique needs, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's about striking the right balance between security and usability. Now, to summarize this, while benefit of multiple authentication methods, basically, while LDAP is commonly used for accessing directory information services and authentication against systems like Active Directory, Open LDAP, SAML is tailored for web-based applications, often for single sign-on or SSO. By supporting both, a VPN product can cater to a wide range of applications. Now, one of the SAML's main strength is its support of SSO, as I mentioned a second ago, allowing users to log in once and gain access to multiple applications without being prompted to log in again for each one. Now, LDAP is known for its fine-grained access control, allowing organizations to set permissions on individual entries. This makes it suitable for VPNs where precise control over who can access what is essential, basically. Now, not all third-party vendors or applications support both LDAP and SAML. Now, by offering both authentication methods, access server solutions can interoperate with a broader range of systems and applications and providing flexibility to the end user and administrator. When we're talking about the scalability, LDAP, especially when used with solutions like Active Directory, can handle a large number of users, making it suitable for big enterprises or large organizations. On the other hand, SAML provides the scalability to integrate with various web applications without needing to integrate with each one individually. When it comes to user experience, different organizations have different user bases, infrastructure, and preferences. Some might prefer the traditional username password approach of LDAP, while others might lean towards the single sign-on experience provided by SAML. Having both ensure, again, a better overall user experience. Now, when it comes to ease of integration, many enterprise systems comes pre-configured to support LDAP or SAML out of the box. By supporting both of them, the VPN product can easily be integrated into existing infrastructure without much custom configuration. And then the last thing is as security needs and infrastructure evolve, organizations might switch between LDAP and SAML or use both simultaneously. Now, a VPN product that supports both will be adaptable to changing those requirements. So this was a quick information about the multi authentication methods available with the access server. Now, I'm gonna see if there is any questions that we need to answer, and then also ask Johan if he wants to add anything to the presentation right now.
I don't really have anything to add. I think you highlighted everything pretty well and quickly and comprehensively. So unless there are any further questions, then yeah, I have nothing further to add. I do see something come in just now. A question that can post-out scripts also be used with local auth? Yes, they can. So with local auth, the username and password is defined in the access server in the user properties database. So this is stored in the access server. The access server is basically capable in local authentication mode to store users and passwords locally. It doesn't need any external authentication system. If you add a post-auth script, you can do things like add an additional check, like you might do a multi-factor check. We already have multi-factor authentication using the Google Authenticator method built in, basically the time-based one-time password stuff that you get with the 6 digits. But you could implement your own. So you can load a post-auth script and then say, hey, after username password authentication has passed, I have additional checks you need to do. And you could even, for example, if you wanted to, we've seen it happen. People send out emails when somebody logs in because, it's Python. So if you wanted to do anything in Python, you can do it, including sending emails or asking additional multi-factor questions of the connecting client or whatever you want. So yeah, totally doable.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any other questions. I would like to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. Oh, there is something coming up, I guess.
Yeah, I see some more questions.
Yeah,
Somebody's got some.
go ahead.
Let's see if
John.
there's something more coming up. I see a question, have U2P running, just wanting to force users to use specific one. Yeah, the Mac post-auth script, that is totally doable as well with local auth. Actually, the thing is, the post-auth system is usable on all the supported authentication systems. The access server supports only running one post-auth script, but that post-auth script can have something in it like, if authentication method is local, then do these additional checks. If authentication system is LDAP, then do these additional checks or tasks. If authentication system is SAML, etc. So all possible cases are possible. So yeah, including the Mac post-auth script, meaning the hardware address checking script, which basically takes a hardware address and makes sure that the client has that same hardware address or UUID the next time it connects, so that others cannot simply copy their profile to another device and then connect again with that because their hardware address will be different. So, yep, totally possible.
Okay, great. There's a question about the LDAP with the Windows 2019, Johan, on the Q&A box.
Yeah, I see it. So Access Server on Windows 2019 can make it work, but not the SSL LDAPs. Yeah, so with that, currently the SSL functionality is something that's only on the command line, and we can provide you with a URL with information on how you can check that and get that working. So there are different ways that you can implement this, like with a valid signed SSL certificate or a self-signed SSL certificate, and then provide a CA to verify against. So these are possibilities. They're not exposed currently in the admin UI, but on the command line, it is possible to configure this. So we can provide you with the URL for that information. And if then you still have issues or questions, you can contact us on support.openvpn.net and we can help you further there.
Yeah, I just pasted the URL in the chat box. Unfortunately, I don't have your name here. It says anonymous. So again, if that doesn't help you, please contact our support from our website.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. I don't see any other questions coming in. Well, again, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate joining us on this. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Be safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.